Hey, grade 10. Welcome back. We're going to be doing chapter 14, Ender's Teacher. So we're 2 chapters away from completing this novel and, of course, deadline 4. And welcome back to the classroom. There you go. It's an older picture, mind you, but it's still, it's kind of cool to kind of almost be back in the classroom. So I miss this place. I miss you all. And so I look forward to getting back into the room, and so that'll be a day to look forward to. All right, in the meantime, we've got some work to do. We're not done yet, so let's get to it. I'm going to chapter 14 is fairly long, and instead of doing a recap for it, I'm going to get right into the summaries. Partly because there's some finer details that I would like to spend time discussing and clarifying. So let's get into that. So let's share the document here. Oops. And let's get going here. So chapter 14, Ender's teacher. Ender doesn't like errors. Right off the bat, it even says that after the narration. There's the higher ups have arrived on the planet to see the final battle, and so they want to know for sure that Ender is the one, and all the resources and time that has been spent on Ender, and all the political games and stuff like that that have been played, especially by Graf, and of course Ender, all the manipulation that has taken place too. It's all coming to a head. So he's experienced vertigo, and gravity was half of normal. So you kind of feel wibbly wobbly when you walk, and it's a very unnerving experience. So if you've experienced or you know somebody who has, it's not fun. And to live with it on a regular basis is certainly not fun. But I know some that live with it, and they manage quite well. Albeit when it happens, it's very frustrating for them. And I've experienced it myself through my epilepsy, and it's yeah, you just kind of everything just kind of spins, and you kind of get that dimension disorientation type thing. So it's not a fun thing to experience. And of course, Ender, wanting to have so much control in his life, this doesn't help with that, because he doesn't have control over the environment. Ender realizes that he's isolated again. So this whole novel has been about manipulation, isolation, and the remaking of. And I bring that question of, will the real Ender please stand up? He's surrounded by strangers and uncertain territory. Actually, that should be corrected. So let's just get uncertain territory. Okay. He's kept busy playing games and immersing himself with his studies, which is nothing new. He just kind of goes back to the way he handled things on battle school when he first arrived there. Ender meets an old man that doesn't respond like other adults do, and this throws Ender off as well. It's very frustrating because he's been able to identify the teachers through their behaviors and how they manage their classes and instruction and interactions and stuff like that. And this guy there's no read at all. Like, he can't read the guy, and he's not responding like anybody else he's had contact with. This guy is Mazer Rackham, and there's a shock to this one, because how did Mazer Rackham survive the final battle if he's the victory, or the one who brought victory to the humans? He says, "One is never too old to be a student of the enemy. I have learned from the buggers. You will learn from me." And I've highlighted to page 264 in this book here. So it might be different in yours, or especially in the audiobook. Ender has been taught the psychology to understand the buggers and defeat them. And Petra alluded to that psychology when she said you should probably focus on developing connections with your allies instead of just focusing on the enemy all the time. But that's been instilled in Ender right from the start, especially when Bonzo alienated him by not allowing him to participate in the game. So he watched, he listened, he learned, and he was able to move up the ranks a lot quicker than Bonzo did, just by defeating by viewing everybody as an enemy. So Rackham was also kept isolated in order to teach the one who would command the fleet. So they've been waiting. Rackham's been waiting for a long time for the one that would finish off this battle. So if we go back to Matrix, for example, Morpheus he's been waiting his whole life for Neo to arrive and to save humanity. Rackham shows the real video of the bugger war because remember it was redacted, and the government only showed bits and pieces of it for propaganda use, which helps Ender understand the psychology of the buggers in battle. The buggers converse all at once. Their thoughts are present in nature and together. Because remember, Ender, he found out that the buggers communicate from ship to ship. So how do you do that if everyone's working as one cohesive group? And he also finds out that they're ant-like. So if you look at the structure and the total makeup of an ant and the colony and the queen, and how they work together as one united force, this is the same thing's being applied or incorporated in its novel here. They tried to capture a queen, but unfortunately the queen was destroyed. Biology takes second place to survival, page 269. Eros used to be a bugger world. The tunnels were carved out, and that made adjusting to this environment a challenge. And so you can just imagine how huge these tunnels are and how big the buggers are. Like, they're massive. They're not the tiny little ants. They're like human-sized version of ants. The ultimate weapon is called the Little Doctor, which can decimate everything in its path, meaning it can obliterate everything that is in front of you when fired. Ender is reunited with his battle school friends. That'll make up the main crew to take on the buggers, which is good because he's no longer isolated in the fashion that he has been. Graf is brought in, realizing, if you recall, I can't remember which chapter off by heart, but Graf stated to Anderson that he's been creating a list of cadets that would be able to work with Ender, and so we get a massive reunion of all the characters that Anders interacted with, fought against with, and now they're working together for this final battle. The crew takes part in a simulation of a real invasion. So the question is, how is this possible? How is it a real invasion? Like, how are they able to incorporate or create a video game version of a real invasion? Okay, or a simulation of a real invasion. And the movie spends a little more, provides what that real invasion would look like if you're participating in it. So it's a lot of like VR, virtual reality type stuff, or you have that feel. And with technology today, you can actually, some of the tools that people use for gaming, you can have it, sit in a chair and you can feel the rocking and the shaking and stuff like that, as if you were right there, actually living it. Ender wants to know if the little doctor can be used on a planet, and Macer is shocked about this request. So, foreshadowing here. So if you look back at the little doctor, if the little doctor can decimate everything in its path, what do you think is going to happen to a planet if you fire it? So let's find out. Ender uses the little doctor, and the simulation ends. The game is over. The truth comes out that the gains were indeed real. Imagine if you hearing that, receiving that information, you're like, this was real the whole time. Oh, it's just a complete shock. So it's like this whole thing has been a lie. All the time these games we've been playing have been real. And so what would happen if they would have been told right off the bat these games are real? Would they have made the same decisions? Would Ender still be the leader of the one that would bring victory to the humans? That'd be an interesting debate discussion to have. Ender won all future games with this action, and he said that right from the beginning that he would fight all battles and with one action. So he doesn't have to keep fighting in individual battles. He's going to do one that's going to win all of them. And so the fight with Stilson, the fight with Bernard, the fight with Bonzo, and now the buggers. Ender became the exact person he didn't want to become, and that was a killer. He worried about that in this discussion with Valentine in chapter 13. All the while he was also worrying about becoming like Peter. Ender was tricked in order to do what he had to do in order to win. Children are reckless, brilliant, and young. Adults are old, cautious, and set in their ways. So does that fit with today's society in historical events? How have children responded to change compared to adults, and vice versa? And so you could take a look at many examples, and that would be another discussion piece that I would have enjoyed having with you. If you want to have that discussion, certainly post on Google Classroom. If the non-international fleet groups want, sorry, not if, they want Ender dead, because it's genocide. He killed a whole planet. Well, international fleet supporters want Ender to lead them after this victory. So civil war is evident. So there is a divide on the planet Earth. On one hand, there will be no more invasions or threats from the buggers, but the other hand, he's taken a whole planet, the whole existence of the buggers, and destroyed them. Is it safe to have that type of person out and about, free to roam the universe, or even return to Earth? Can Ender return to Earth? That's a big question there. Peter's views are being used as a proposal to bring peace to Earth, and how will Peter respond to that? And you would find out about that in these subsequent novels that come after Ender's Game, because it is a series. If the international fleet is reorganized after the wars on Earth, home will not be the same for Ender or for anyone else. So that's what I said earlier. Can Ender even go home? That'll be the big question, especially if there are groups on the planet that want him dead. Okay. All right. So that is chapter 14. Don't forget your summaries, your project, Sunday, 3:30, and then you can get going on your TED Talks between now and June 15th. And clear off your plate, get it done, send through Google Classroom or through a link on email. you have any questions about TED Talk, check your course outline first, and then ask me if you have further questions. All right, take care and be safe.